Open your cerebral cortex and shift your lobes into upper beta phase, because you are going to have Bitcoin knowledge transmitted directly into your vestibulocochlear. Your host of Bitcoin Knowledge is Trace Mayer, an early Bitcoin advocate since it cost $0.25, but this is not intended to be investment advice. A doctor of jurisprudence, but this is definitely not legal advice. And an investor in core cryptocurrency infrastructure, including Armory, BitPay, Kraken, and Mitagio, but this is not a recommendation of those services. Here, you get fed via direct mind download with pure and free Bitcoin knowledge.
Welcome back to the Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast. We have a great interview today with Nimrod Lehavi. He's founder and CEO of Simplex, simplex.cc. Welcome to the podcast, Levi.
Hi.
How did you get involved in the Bitcoin community?
Well, I think it was about 2 or 2.5 years ago. I was working in a previous startup, so I couldn't get really engaged, but I read about it and I just found it to be like code poetry. It was so well organized and well thought of, so I knew I had to do something with it. At the time, I didn't do anything except buying just a bit. But when the previous startup shut down, I knew I was going to do something with Bitcoin, for Bitcoin, for the ecosystem. I found the ecosystem to be, again, at the time, now it's a bit less, but at the time it was really fun to be in it. All the entrepreneurs were still very happy to share and help with everything. So it was, and it was very clear to me that it's a complete change in the way you think and the way you can do things in the online world. So I was absolutely sure it's something I want to be involved in. It's not something I can sit out.
Yeah, the code is just so elegant. So what does Simplex do? And where are you guys based? Where are you from? You know, what product and service are you offering to the market that really kind of helps build it out?
So currently Simplex allows Bitcoin exchanges, cloud mining companies, and the companies selling Bitcoin in different methods like prepaid cards of Bitcoin and stuff like that. We allow all of them to accept credit cards. Today, almost none of them actually accept credit cards. The ones that do suffer a lot of fraud. Most of them are not able to do that for 2 main reasons. One is the fraud, which is has a huge cost with it. So only the big ones like Circle can afford it. But the other one is the compliance and regulatory issues. Because they're not a regulated bodies, because there's no actual regulation in place for Bitcoin companies, they just can't work with any bank. So we're coming in the middle and we're providing processing services for credit cards, but we're providing very specific processing service in which the exchange basically never sees the chargeback. So even if there was a fraudulent chargeback, they still receive the money. We're able, relying on our experience and knowledge and technology that we developed, we're able to mitigate the risk in a way that we hardly see any fraud passing us. So the exchange can start accept credit cards, so the user can buy with a credit card, and the exchange still has a peace of mind that he doesn't see the chargeback.
So you have these indemnification agreements in place so that exchanges, other Bitcoin companies are able to accept the credit cards with absolutely no chargeback risk at all.
No
you guys
fraud
take
chargeback.
no fraud chargeback.
It's a no chargeback guarantee. There are 3 types of chargebacks. The fraud one is the real problematic one because that's something that you just can't fight. The other 2 are technical, like I got charged twice or something like that, which is easy to solve. The third one is service-oriented, like I didn't get exactly what I wanted, it's not the right amount, it's not the right address or stuff like that, which is easy to prove and easy to fix based on customer service. So we're tackling the real problem and the real issue, and we see tons of fraud. We're just able to mitigate and filter it out from the system.
So how's the business growing? Like what are you seeing across the Bitcoin ecosystem?
It's growing very nicely. We launched about 4 and a bit months with just a few companies to start with, a few small ones. We processed close to $1 million so far, which I think brings huge value to the ecosystem. I mean, it's $1 million that otherwise would have not been, at least not so easily, changed into Bitcoin. So I think it brings a lot of value. I also think that, especially in the US, I think that people are very much used to buying with a credit card. You don't want to give ACH access to your account. You definitely don't want to make a wire transfer. You just want to go online and buy. Now, another super important implication on the mass usage of Bitcoin is that today, when you're doing a wire transfer, it's almost always above $1,000. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense with the fees. Now, if you're always above $1,000, you're always required for a full KYC, meaning you need to provide a passport or other identity documents. Now, that's basically the threshold for these requirements. So if you're all of a sudden able to buy $200 worth of Bitcoin, you're not required for these papers. So all the long tail of Bitcoin that up until now wasn't really able to buy will be able to buy. So the more exchanges that work with us, we're able to provide better terms, take the commission down, better payment terms for the exchanges. So everybody wins.
Yes, we got more, you could say, backwards compatibility between Bitcoin and the credit cards. We're able to, lower the barriers to entry for people acquiring new Bitcoin. It's making it easy to buy it.
Absolutely. And I think that most people want, first of all, before they commit to a large amount, they want to buy like $50 or $100 and just use it somewhere, see that it's actually useful for other things that they see in the media. Like, I'm not going to buy drugs with it. I'm going to buy pizza. I'm going to pay for my haircut. I'm going to send it to a friend who paid the restaurant bill. And it's actually useful and it's actually fun and it's actually easy and it's so easy to pay with it online that I'm going to just buy tons of it and then I'm just going to pay with it online.
So how do you guys guard against this fraud that goes on with the credit cards? Because, Bitcoin's irreversible. If you let people buy Bitcoins with the credit cards and then they withdraw their credit cards from the exchange, you're not getting those funds back. So there's not a lot of room for error. How do you guys guard against all of that?
So it's an existing methodology in e-commerce. There are a few companies doing that. For e-commerce, again, it's easier there because the loss is not 100% like in Bitcoin. And they have some margin of error because of the delivery time of the product usually. But again, it's doable. It's doable in the sense that we're collecting, let's say, roughly 3,000 data points per transaction. All the obvious ones, your email, your IP address, the address in your verification documents, and we cross-reference everything that we can get our hands on. Meaning that we're collecting a lot of data, and then our mechanism, our automatic system is reviewing the data and basically saying whether it's safe or not. Currently, if it's not safe, we just say no. Or we give you an additional verification mechanism, like send us a selfie with your credit card or something like that, if you still want, because we want to improve the service. We want to allow as many people as possible to complete the transaction and buy Bitcoin.
What type of rates are you seeing of just transactions that get declined, ones that have to kind of get escalated where they're sending in the picture or the selfie? I mean, what are we looking at in terms of overall conversion rates with people being able to attempt to buy with a credit card and then actually being able to buy?
Most of them are able to buy. It's actually pretty clear cut. It's about 30% rejection. Total. From that, I'd say 25 is very clear fraud. And the 5 are we're not sure, so we prefer to reject. But it's just like in other markets, if they keep sending you emails with stupid claims, it means they're fraudsters. Like we had cases in which someone sent us an email, I'm writing an article in Cryptocurrency Network, one of the blogs, so you better make it really fast, the improvement for the credit. I mean, it's basic social engineering trials on our support. But again, at least so far, we've done pretty good.
That's really kind of funny that someone would be masquerading as a journalist saying, we're going to create you negative PR if you don't let us engage in the fraud. I mean, what's a real big red flag to identify, right?
Just like, just like the Nigerian sting schemes, the emails on purpose include spelling mistakes and grammar mistakes, so only the really gullible fools would fall for it. That's why their funnel is not loaded with people who will reject them later. So that's the way they filter it. So I mean they're pros. They're not coming to play.
Yeah, they're filtering for stupidity. That's who they're after.
Exactly, and they're pros. They're doing it because
they're good at it. Yeah,
it's tightened the funnel, so you have better results at the end.
Yeah, applying some of these sales principles to the fraud side. So pays not to be stupid. And
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Absolutely.
there's not really any fix for that. You can't you can't just take a pill and fix
Survival of
it,
the
right?
fittest.
Well, that's what it used to be, right? But now, as we transition from the industrial to the information age, the industrial age, our tools and inventions largely multiplied the power of our muscles. But now, our tools are multiplying the power of our minds. Are you finding that it's perhaps just a few particular trouble causers that are the real cause of a lot of these fraud rates? I mean, are you
Not really. It's spread pretty
it's
much
spread
all over
pretty
the
widely?
world. Yeah.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why it's easier to kind of identify where the fraud is? You're dealing with stupid criminals?
No, the criminals, at least to a certain extent, some of them are not stupid at all. They're just they're focusing their efforts where it's working. So if they see that our mechanism is good enough, they'll just go elsewhere.
Yeah, they're like, well,
Yeah, it's just like burglary. If you have a dog or a fence and your neighbor doesn't,
you're
guess
harder
where the
target.
burglar is going to go.
Yeah. We see cybersecurity being just such a major issue. Home Depot, major banks are losing millions of customer records. Do you think that the Bitcoin industry, by the sheer nature of our asset being so desirable for the thieves, being irreversible, that it's causing the industry to just rise to this really high standard of performance? Otherwise, they just lose the money and they have to go out of business.
I guess it is. I think that the real problem is always the human factor, right? And with the bigger organizations have a huge problem. There was just a research by Gartner, perhaps, I don't know, one of the big research companies. Can you guess what's the average time an organization knows about a data leak or a hack to their systems?
Oh, probably
Guess.
Months. I don't know.
380 days.
Oh, that's over a year.
Yeah. So it means every organization you work with has been hacked, pretty much.
And they don't even know
And they
it.
don't even know it for a year.
Yeah.
It means that they can't even defend or can't stop it or definitely can detect the problem. So they might have keyloggers everywhere. So everything is compromised. And I think with Bitcoin, again, the problem is the human factor. So, and I mentioned it in the panel, I think that the evolution of it will be automatic payments, because then there's no error. So if your car is paying the parking lot or the meter or whatever, there's no error there. And you settle the transaction immediately. Same with, and again, I'm connecting it with both security and with cybersecurity and with Internet of Things. So I'm just overloading all the buzzwords. Imagine your air conditioning unit or your smart lock paying the electricity bill with a private key of the address that you define to it. So you're paying the bill and you're making sure that only you with a private key are using the air conditioning unit. So it solves the huge security problem with the Internet of Things and the payment side as well. And I think it's going to contribute to the adoption of Bitcoin as well to bigger organizations.
And it's just so much more efficient. And at the end of the day, we're able to automate a lot of things, which frees up human labor. We used to have to wash everything by hand before electricity. Now, a lot of people just don't have to do that.
Which is somewhat a problem because as you said, the sillier people don't have much to do now.
Exactly. Horse populations have been on decline since the horseless carriage came
Now, what's
about.
going to happen in a few years when you're going to have automatic cars? I read somewhere that it's going to be 7 million people out of a job.
Yeah, well, think of all the Uber drivers that are
They
getting
should learn
replaced.
how to code immediately. There's always a shortage of that.
Isn't that true? There's always a shortage of developers.
Always.
What's kind of one of the funniest stories that you've come across in Bitcoin or observed or watched?
Well, we've seen some really funny fraud trials. As I said, one of the escalations of otherwise rejected transaction is send us a selfie with a credit card. So you see some people going berserk about privacy. They don't want to send us, come on, guys, you just gave us everything. You gave us your passport, your credit card details, everything, and you don't want to send us a selfie. So, it's kind of absurd. And naturally, we see that some pictures get heavily photoshopped, like a guy holding his credit card in the selfie, but you can see the digits of the credit card through his finger. So it's stuff that's really hard to understand. But
how about any masks? Anybody wearing the big horse head mask or dressed up as
not
a
the big
Smurf
horse,
or
but
something?
definitely putting a projector, like a huge light behind their face, so you can't see anything. Yeah, it's
really.
yeah.
And they actually expect this to work, huh?
Yeah. But again, I mean, as soon as it doesn't, they just leave. And you can see, I mean, in our graphs, you can see like specific attacks. And another, I find it funny, at least we have the service is definite. Of course, it's not running from the servers providing the kind of a marketing website. But still, the marketing website is getting DDoS all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Which is, come on, guys. What do you think you're going to get out of it just because it says Bitcoin in the website? Kind of crazy.
Have you traveled over much of the world in your Bitcoin travels? You seen much of the community or met much of it all over the world? Any thoughts on how the community is developing?
I think it's, well, in Israel, we have a very big community.
And are you based out of where?
Israel.
Tel Aviv?
Yeah,
or
Tel
okay.
Aviv in Israel. We have thousands of people on the Facebook group, like 5,000, I think, which is pretty big considering the size of Israel.
Yeah.
I think that, I don't know, I think it's kind of, this is the time where it separates the men and the children because of the rate being so low for so long. I think it's only not sure if it's the actual believers, because I think it's more than a belief. I think that I can see a way in which cryptocurrency fails, because it's an actual solution for an actual algorithmic problem that, it's a change, not something that someone can undo. How will they cope with it, regulation-wise, tax-wise? I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a change. It's going to happen.
Yeah, just like the internet, just like personal computers, just like smartphones.
Even look at the smaller thing, at torrents.
Yeah.
They're illegal, but still.
They're here.
Exactly. They're here. They're doing, I don't know what percentage of traffic. I read somewhere
25% or something like that of the entire internet traffic.
Exactly. So I think the community is very different from place to place. I've been to Amsterdam and Berlin, and in the US I've been both in New York and San Francisco. I think in the US, because of the so big amount of money invested in it, it's still it's considered almost mainstream here. Whereas in Israel, to raise funds for a Bitcoin company is, I wouldn't say impossible, but it's pretty close to that. I'm guessing Europe is pretty hard as well. Don't see many companies there not self-funded by strong believers in the market, mostly early movers.
Is part of that just due to the tech industries in general in those areas? I mean, do you have other startups that get funded? I mean, Silicon Valley is just kind of famous for, funding every crazy idea.
Yeah.
Like, do we just get lots of tech startups in Tel Aviv? Or
Tel Aviv is it's second only to San Francisco with regards to startups in general, not even per amount of people around, but just second. Yeah, I think that there are still huge ideas that we just haven't heard of coming out of China for sure. There's a lot of adoption there. I spoke with Huobi CEO yesterday briefly through an interpreter because he doesn't have really good English, but they're hardly interested in what's going on outside of China because there's so much there.
What's going on? Any examples?
Just the volume there is almost enough. I mean, I told him about our service, and he said, "Yeah, it's nice that you serve worldwide, but we're more interested in China."
What type of volumes are China doing?
Again, it's really depending because everybody's saying they're cheating in their graphs, but still, I mean, them and OKCoin and BTC China are still, they hold, I don't know, a third of the market, half of the market.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
And any of the news is in like these characters that nobody can read, right?
Yeah. And there was a huge story there with the mining. You heard about it?
No. I mean, I know that we have a lot of mining in China, but not
so
sure
it was
which
one
story.
Of the bigger operation, I think Amhash or something, they got raided by mobsters pretty much.
Wow.
Took over 2 of their facilities.
Holy cow.
One of the guys is gone. Yeah. That's another podcast though. After you make some research, it's crazy story.
Boy, isn't that a story? More cloak and dagger in the Bitcoin land.
Literally cloak and dagger. Literally. So yeah.
On a brighter night, let's not end on a morbid, somber note, but on a brighter note, what are you most optimistic about this? You've already kind of said, it's inevitable. This is a technological change. It will be adopted. What are you most optimistic about in this new world that we're entering?
I think that in, let's say, 4 years is my magic number. It's mainstream, fully regulated, replacing credit cards online in any place where the merchant is stronger. Because I think it's more of a cash substitute for online. where the user, the client is still stronger, it's going to stay as credit cards because they want to maintain the power of chargebacks and getting good enough service, customer protection, and all that. For Simplex specifically, the moment that it's even close to mainstream, we'll be able to provide fraudless payment processing for the entire e-commerce as well, based on our systems. Because let's face it, we're practicing in the toughest neighborhood. We're practicing our systems on Bitcoin. So by definition, everything is easier. And using our database, our system, our knowledge, we'll be able to facilitate no fraud payments worldwide to everybody.
If you can deal with the Bitcoin fraudsters, then I mean, you're playing a game, right? Yeah. Thanks so much for being with us.
Gladly.
We've had Nimrod Lehavi, founder and CEO of Simplex. Thanks for being with us.
Gladly.
Be sure to get a copy of the free Bitcoin Guide at freebitcoinguide.com. Got a question or suggestion? Record your voice at bitcoin.kn. Don't be shy. To help the show, share bitcoin.kn with friends, post about it on Reddit, and otherwise spam the interwebs. Your iTunes comments and 5-star reviews are very important to us. Please continue tuning in to the Bitcoin Knowledge Podcast, where we release interviews with the top people in the Bitcoin world. Now take some choline and let that Bitcoin knowledge consolidate.